So Tristan, Mike, the band is back together. The three of us are back together for the final episode on the Landlord Podcast for 2022. The year has been a bit of a up and down year, shall we say, for the housing market. But for us and this particular podcast, it's been awesome. We've loved all the comments. We love the engagement. We love creating the episodes. But this is a season wrap up and also a farewell, which we're going to cover as well in terms of one of the hosts not being with us going into next year, but I'm sure we'll come back as a guest. Mike, how are you? For those that are listening, you won't see the jumper that Mike's got on. For those that are watching, do you want to talk us through that?
Well, as we said, it's the end of the year, isn't it? So I've come in my Christmas jumper and I feel like no one else got the memo.
I did not get that memo.
Normally there's some sort of communication.
I mean, come on, you should just know.
Talk us through the design there.
Well, it's from Primani.
Nice,
which is pretty special. I haven't started itching yet, so they've brought the quality up.
Wow.
And it's an extra special Grinch.
Very bright.
They haven't missed an inch on this jumper.
You've got.
I think they've used every single bit of wool, stroke polyester, stroke acrylic.
You also have a dancing Christmas hat that matches that.
I do have a Christmas hat that matches this.
Yeah,
I'm disappointed you're not wearing it.
I was tempted. It was cold this morning, so it would have gone well.
Follow the socials because we will make that happen at some point. That will be an image or a gift that
we
will
do
go
what
on
we can.
There. Absolutely. Tristan, welcome back. Couple of weeks without you. You've been busy setting up a new business.
I have.
So this is going to be your last episode as a host.
It is, and it's been a great journey. Very, very. We've progressed a lot. We're 8,000 downloads as of last week, monthly downloads, so it's gone substantially. But yeah, really excited for what's to come as well.
When Jordan does the editing for us on these. He's actually going to put some really nice kind of like violin music to that moment there, just to really set the tone of Tristan leaving. So it's going to be exciting to see what you do. Do you want to sort of tell everyone about exactly where you're going and what the plan is?
Yeah, I'd love to. So plan of action is I'm moving up north towards where my girlfriend lives. Up in Ipswich.
More violin music here.
There we go.
Yeah.
Totally different location, nowhere near where we're already established. And yeah, it's a really exciting opportunity. And I'll also be doing a brand new podcast for the Suffolk property market.
Well, I will be downloading and listening in while I'm on my runs. So in this episode, it's the end of the year. First thing that I want to ask, I'm going to put both of you on the spot and you're welcome to fire it back at me. 2022, Mike, who is your best guest?
So best guest of the year must have been the most recent visit from Pete Licorinas, who's not only turned his entire life around, his entire business around to do something totally different, but he's now found a way to invest in property and create a social housing brilliance for young kids in our area, which if you could marry two things together, which is investing and making money through property and being someone who makes a social difference in your community, you can't knock that. You cannot better that, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that was a great episode. And it was great to hear just a totally different take on property investing with a passion rather than just property investing with finance. Tristan, best guest, hit me.
Well, I have to agree with Mike, first of all, but I'd also say Jamie Shepherd from Soteria Planning. The information he shared, I didn't know a lot of it, and I'm pretty certain the listeners didn't know about it, talking about LPAs, how to tax efficiently pass on your assets. And there's a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't realise, such as if you passed away without a will, trying to make contact with anyone, they're not going to speak to you because there's nothing in place. And I think the information on there is just stuff you just don't think about because it's today, you're alive, but anything can happen.
No, brilliant stuff. For me, the one that sticks out that I guess it was the most relative to what I do from a day to day, but the one that sticks out that I actually really surprisingly enjoyed, was when we had the EPC assessor come on. I was so engaged with that one. I was listening. I think I might have taken him down a wormhole asking questions that were relevant to what I wanted. But his knowledge was great. And also it was really interesting to hear just little things like how they're setting it up to help investors by kind of not just doing the survey on the energy performance certificate, but also doing the suggestions that would improve it. I thought that was gold, and it was a really good episode. Worst moment Most awkward, worst moment. Probably something that the listeners and the watchers wouldn't have seen or heard because we are very smooth with our editing on this podcast.
I'm
But
sure you guys have got a few for me.
Yeah, I mean, the people would never know, would they? I think Tristan and I probably share the favourite worst moment where the two of us recorded absolutely dead straight for about 45 minutes, one perfect take. Tristan asked me my highlight of an episode. I told him what my highlight was, said, "What do you think, Tristan?" And he said, "I've got no idea, I wasn't listening."
Brilliant.
I think that's got to be joint unless you can beat that.
No, that was the one exactly what I
Yeah.
was thinking too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that in the bloopers? Because we did the bloopers video.
No,
Was
it
that
wasn't
a different one.
Wasn't released
You
yet. It
kept
was
that
with
one back.
after Liam Connolly, wasn't it? It was a great one.
I love that. I mean, I've obviously done a bit of the editing. You've done a bit of the editing, but there's been some horror shows just kicking the intro off, hasn't there? Really, where it's kind of like, right, do you want to do the intro today? Yeah, I'll do the intro today. Blah blah blah, cut, blah blah cut, blah, blah. You do the intro, and then that's happened quite a few times, but loved it. Most amazing lesson, biggest takeaway lesson. Could be a guest, could be just a single light bulb moment, but what was the best kind of lesson and takeaway that you individually took? Because I remember thinking back to, we had Peter Laverdos on twice, and last year we had him on, and this year we had him on. I remember last year, that was the biggest takeaway for me last year, was having Peter really talking about, as an action coach, business trainer and coach, to bring that into property. I realised it was a light bulb moment for me, because I realised I run a business like that, with planning, strategy, organisation, cash flowing, P&L sheets, really detailed. But my property investment portfolio, I didn't even run it anywhere near like that. I had no record of things. And that was a real light bulb moment for me sort of last year. This year, I really enjoyed listening to the chat from Lend Invest, because I learned a lot about creative finance on that one, and bridging and understanding how a kind of boutique-y type lender was looking at sort of growing and expanding and the differences. So that was probably my moments from the last 2 years I've sort of covered there. But what about you guys? Tristan, Mike?
I'd say for me would probably be equity release and lifetime mortgages.
Greg.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing until sort of we come on and spoke about it in more detail. I didn't know how it worked. And I'd probably say that's probably one of them. And alongside that is as I've already covered, the Jamie scenario. There's a lot of information ever since his presentation at one of the property events we went to, which was the best of the night, alongside Lend Invest. I think it's something that people need to hear.
It's a bit awkward because I presented in that as well.
It's a bit harsh, isn't it? It's
Is
three
it?
three
Sorry, mate.
three presenters, and you said the other two were the best.
Hopefully, I got the bronze at least on that one. Jeez. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, they're both cracking. Mike, yourself?
I think it's a culmination and that constant reminder that when you bring a specialist in their field in, they're always going to know more than what you know about that thing. So you'll always learn about different subjects, but you will never beat the specialist. And that's why having a power team around you, or a great network, and being willing to open up yourself to allow those people in to advise you and listen and take their advice, is the biggest part of learning you can do, is by having Greg and Jamie and those sorts of people on your team. You can't go wrong, because if I'm ever going to try and write my own will, I'm never going to be as efficient as a Jamie who's going to charge me a couple of £100 and probably save my kids tens and tens of thousands. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Very serious chat for someone in a Grinch jumper there.
Well,
but I liked it. I just feel that in the edit I can clip that and use some really cool music to really get people to question whether that was serious or not. But it was, and it was good. I like it. Right, curveball 2023 rental market nationwide. What are we thinking? Not nationwide the lender, but up and down. We have to say nationwide now because Tristan's moving to Ipswich. So what are we thinking in terms of the rental market expectations in a 90-second wrap up? I'll go to you, Tristan. Ladies first. What do you think?
I could probably do it in less than 90 seconds. I think rental market prices will continue to rise, with recent stats of over 13% of landlords have sold in the last 4 months. And the lack of stock and demand is still ridiculous. The sales market's obviously slowed down slightly, but I still seeing it going up. and I don't see that changing.
Rental prices going up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And Mike, your take from a landlord's perspective then. Obviously, interest rates, the base rate's gone up. It's up to 3.5% now.
Yep.
Interest rates are likely to fall, though. I think they've accounted for that. Most of the lenders talking to people in the know. But what's your expectations for people buying investments next year? Do you think that's a thing, or are we going to see still more like 2-to-1 in terms of sale to purchase?
Yeah, I think firstly, I knew interest rates were going up by 0.5% last week. So if I knew, the banks definitely knew.
Yeah.
It was the worst open secret you ever heard. But will landlords buy? Yes, people will still buy properties to rent. I think there'll be a slowdown of landlords selling next year. I think most or a large proportion of those who were going to sell have done. We've seen the top of the market, so there'll be less motivation to do it. And I think a lot of people who are selling houses, if they fall through, they will now hold them to rent. So there may be, and I hope there is, a bit of a stabilisation of the rental market. It is still a bit paralysed by tenants staying in properties too scared to give notice because they don't think they're going to find anything. So that supply to the market is being held by tenants because they're staying in properties for longer and longer. But hopefully, yes, a bit more of a stabilisation in prices from my point of view.
Yeah, interesting. I think overall, we'll probably see numbers where the stock levels probably stay relatively similar, if not marginally down from my point of view. But one thing we spoke about before a couple of months ago, I can't remember which episode, was the investing that's coming in on the larger scale, sort of almost overseas investments, but on build to rent.
Yeah.
And I think that seems to be something that's really taken off. It has done for the last couple of years, and I think the next couple of years it's going to be significant.
There's a huge pipeline. It just depends if that pipeline is the type of properties that people want and need.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that will be interesting whether that stabilizes certain markets, because you put a strong build to rent block or a couple of blocks in a fairly small town, and all of a sudden that town is saturated with 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom apartments, and it can have quite an impact. So we'll see how that unfolds. Guest you didn't manage to get on, industry area you didn't manage to get on. Tristan, you were grafting for guests in certain areas, because a lot of our listeners have requested certain industries, but sometimes people are not overly keen in coming on because they're a little bit scared of the camera or the microphone. We totally get that. But guest you didn't manage to get on, or industry you didn't manage to get in?
So I've got 2 that I eventually managed to get on, but it took me, one was about 3 months and one was about 4 months. The first one was the EPC. No one would put their name to it. No one would tell me why until after about 4 weeks later, one of the assessors said to me, they probably don't want to come on the show because it's so regulated. It's always changing and no one wants to be on a podcast given the wrong information, essentially. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But we wasn't asking them to share stuff that they can't say. We wanted them just to share their knowledge of what they do day to day and what people can do to make it more efficient. That's just a personal chat and to let us know that information. The other one was a tax advisor, which we did get on from Styles. We had Darren Parsons on, who was a great episode. But I tried getting someone back on, another accountant, to give a bit more insight from a landlord tax point of view. And that's proven very difficult from someone else. You might have to get Darren back. So I've got some more questions for him, and I'm sure you guys do. And the third one was, I can't remember.
Green energy. That's what.
That was
green energy.
Yes.
I knew it was going in your head. I could read it in your eyes, and then you lost it. Green energy is. We'd love to get someone to explain what on earth the government green deals are at the moment. Whether anyone takes them, whether they're a total rip-off, whether landlords should be putting photovoltaic panels on their roofs, or whether everyone should be shying away from it. We'd love that if there's someone out there.
I want an Airbnb person. Let's have that conversation.
Rent to rent.
Rent to rent, Airbnb. How's it work? What's the breakdown? How does it make money? I don't even mind if it's a trainer, someone that's training other people on how to do it. But just be great to get a real good insight into the Airbnb world. Tristan, you'll know this, we won't. Biggest downloaded episode 2022. What's it been? Other than this one when it goes live, because it's been unbelievable.
Obviously.
Peter Licorinas, the one from a couple of weeks ago.
Project Home.
Yep. Within the first 24 hours, we had nearly 500 downloads.
Wow.
and it's just been going up and up and up since.
Yeah, so if you haven't listened to that one, Project Home episode, a couple of weeks back, you'll find it if you scroll through the shows. Great listen. Long one as well. So yeah, great to hear that being downloaded. Where has this podcast got you noticed? The most random scenario? I think we've all had a few random ones, which is great because it means it's going out and about there. I got noticed in Butlins. Did go to Butlins this year. Went to Butlins with my 6-year-old and my wife and the baby. And I got noticed in Butlins. Someone, as I was walking out of the swimming pool, said, "Are you Ian Macbeth from the Landlord Page Podcast?" Which was pretty cool because I was unbranded as well. So that was my most random moment. And it was a bit of a terror moment because I was trying to carry multiple things at that moment. But that was mine. Mike?
Yeah, central London at a birthday party, actually. I got pulled over by an estate agent from Sunderland and a property developer from the Cotswolds in the same night. Bizarrely,
Very
in the middle of central London, two people, one person I'd never met before, one I'd met in passing, both said, "I'm listening to your podcast." I don't know why people don't do it more. So
Really cool.
yeah,
Love that.
I do recall both of you putting in the WhatsApp group saying, "I've just been spotted."
famous hashtag.
Hashtag famous. We've had some great contacts reach out on all different platforms. I mean, you've had quite a few different platforms where people have reached out, but is there anyone that's reached out, and you don't have to name them, but is there any scenarios that someone's reached out for help in some area? It might have been sourcing, but what was your favourite kind of case study, without saying who it was, that's come from the podcast that's turned into an investment and maybe business for us as well, sort of backhanded?
Yeah, so most of them, well, they've come from everywhere, really. I've had one from Twitter, and I've had 2 from Instagram, and the rest have come from Facebook. So all from the social media platforms of that. But obviously that's just from the clips that physically came from Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so forth. One case study was an investor in Bracknell, had some extra cash, and took my advice and found a 3-bedroom family home, which was always my recommendation.
Yeah,
Tenants have been in there ever since, and yeah, they've been happy that they've loved the experience.
everyone's winning.
Yeah, but they went in, they brought a property that was a bit run down, so they went in, new carpets, repaint, freshened it up, and got maximum price for it. And the tenants are happy. They're going to be there long term. They wanted 3 years initially. I've spoke to them recently, and they don't plan to move anytime soon.
Amazing. I mean, there's 2 reasons we do this podcast, 3 reasons we do this podcast. Reason 1 is we always said we want to do something where no one's coming on to sell. We're just offering value to people that want to be a landlord, that currently they are landlords or they're property investors in any fashion, or just people generally interested in property. That was our ultimate goal. Secondary to that, we wanted to learn ourselves. We wanted to be better at the job that we do. So what better way than having conversations with experts? And third, if people want our help, support, needs, then we can offer that and we can help people much like that situation, which is really cool.
Yeah, the help side has been massive. We did the lifting the lid on terms and conditions for letting agents as a series where you essentially put a microphone in front of me and let me rant for an hour.
That was quite early on in the year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a while ago now. But we had a landlord contact us from that whose fees had been raised about 3 times in 3 years by their current agent. They're being charged something like £300 a month for management fees, which was mad.
Yeah.
And told he couldn't leave his contract because his tenants were in situ, which is also not true.
Yeah.
So we were able to get him released from his contract without charge and moved to ourselves managing the property in the end for about a third of the cost, which he's really happy with.
Can I just add to that point? They also couldn't get an increase on rent, and he then went to the tenant direct and explained it is because his mortgage rates have gone up, which is why he was trying to increase the rent, and they agreed a £600 increase.
I don't believe for a minute there's an estate agent in the UK telling a fib, but maybe that was the case. We'll see. Jordan, please cue the violin music for us. So Tristan, last episode, move up to Ipswich. We want to say thanks, obviously myself and Mike, for being a massive integral part of putting this together. What a lot of people don't realise in the background is Tristan does the edits. He gets the podcast live on all the platforms, normally creates the show notes as well. So yeah, from us, a big thank you for being an integral part of getting it off the ground, making it a success. We're going to definitely carry it on into 2023. So good luck with your new venture. Tristan is still very much part of the avocado brand. He's just taken the pink hoodies to Ipswich. So excited to see what you and Andy can do up there. Great sort of talking off camera as well about some of the little golden nuggets that are already bubbling up there before launch. So thanks from us, and well done for all your efforts so far in getting this podcast off the ground, bud.
Thank you.
End of violin music. Back onto Christmas music. And really for the guests, I guess we want to say happy Christmas, happy New Year, but it's better coming from you in that jumper, Mike. So
well, yeah, absolutely. Wishing everyone who's been on the podcast and everyone who's listened to the podcast a happy Christmas, and more importantly, a happy and prosperous New Year.
Absolutely. We'll bring on 2023. If you've got guests you want on, let us know, and we will be doing our utmost to get them on next year. But I'm excited to take this podcast into its third year and second full year. Thanks again, Tristan. Thanks, Mike, and Merry Christmas to everyone. I'm flicking through YouTube and through Spotify. I don't think there's a podcast or a video channel on YouTube that landlords could land on where they're not being sold something.
I mean, it'd be the first time any estate agents ever asked that question, but why not ask that question to a wider audience?
Estate agents have the knowledge there, but they don't seem to share it.
You can do different episodes based around someone that wants an exit plan or someone that's just starting their portfolio.
The rules change every year.
Yeah.
But why not just open the floor out and just say, well, is property even the best investment out there?
And tax advice is a big thing, especially with everything that's changed, capital gains tax, and obviously your stamp duty costs that you need to pay and whatnot. People don't realise what they need to prepare for.
We build a podcast and we build a YouTube channel, somewhere that landlords can go and they feel they're not being sold to, but they're just getting quality advice.